Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Wednesday night again with Dr. Sharon, nurse Paige, and entrepreneur Walt Kaminsky.
Mhm.
It is October 18th, full on fall seasons out here, and it's just beautiful. The leaves are changing, the air is crisp, enjoying some time outside despite the temperature changes. And tonight we're going to change it up a little bit. Tonight we're going to talk about the economic burdens on us presently. And we have some data that we're going to share. But the stress that we're all facing in the world and in this country specifically, which is where my data is coming from, people are struggling vocationally with their jobs. They're struggling economically with things that are completely out of their control. And we've started our series talking about self-care, and Walt had a great opening session with me initially back in, I think it was June, when he talked about, having a current healthcare plan versus a plan that's going to take place later in life when we're sicker and it costs more. So we're going to kind of dive into some of the stressors related to the economy and our well-being and what it does to our well-being. And I'm going to share just one statistic, and then I'm going to turn it over to Walt, because I am in the healthcare arena, as is Paige. 41% of adults in this country have healthcare debt, just healthcare debt. And so whether it's a $500 debt or over $10,000 and more, that's something that I have seen in my own experience as a physician. And that's just one number in one area. But thinking about our health and well-being from a vocational and a financial standpoint is really important because of the burden of stress it causes on our mindset and our relationships. So Walt, do
So,
you want to
question
do?
for you on that one, though,
Yeah.
that I just thought of. So, as people worry about having debt because of trying to get healthier or be healthier, do you think that keeps people from going to seek help because they don't want to have a bill and then they just get sicker, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The costs of the visits include not only the cost of the visit, any testing that might be done, any prescription, as we know, is outrageous, but not to mention the time off from the job where they have to go in order to see their provider. So all of those are economic hits. It's not just, the doctor bill. Yeah, you have an insurance plan, but there's a cost involved. So that's a great thing. And we have seen a decrease in volume until somebody is almost too sick, right? And then starts to seek multiple specialists because multiple systems have been affected. Yeah, good point, Paige. Well,
Yeah, and I would just say that, as we talk about this topic that has a lot of tentacles, right? I mean, because when we talk about vocational stress, I think that it would be fair to say that many of us may work in environments to where we don't feel very appreciated. Many of us may work in environments where, um, we're just struggling to make ends meet because of the situations with inflation, where our gas prices have been, although more moderate maybe today.
mhm,
And then, the amount of time we have to put in the job, you know, companies are monitoring the amount of human resources that they have to offer, or allow us to have in our businesses. And it causes everyone else to have to work harder or longer. I mean, the traditional 9 to 5, where you go in at 9 and you're done at 5 every day, is obsolete nowadays because so many people work from home or a combination of home. And I've worked from home for a very long time, and I'll tell you that I have found that working at home, I actually work longer than when I worked where I had a shift of some kind, simply because there's no on or off button. It's more like things continue to come in. And we've made so many strides. I was talking to someone today who was giving a presentation to his team, about a new process or program that they were rolling out. And from the time he started the presentation till the time he got back to his laptop after the presentation, there were 225 emails he needed to review. So when you think about these things that happen, it causes this stress, right? And this stress puts us in that bottomless pit of, oh my God, I can never dig myself out. And you couple that with how we may be feeling about our healthcare if we're not trying to come up with some positive approaches to that, which we've also covered. But then we find ourselves struggling to pay for our day to day. And I think that part of the things we want to talk about today um, are similar to what we talk about with a healthcare plan is how do you take action and what are some of the actions you could take to minimize or uh, limit that stress that we feel because when we're under stress we're no good to anybody at some point in time in our day.
Mm. And I just want to segue off of that, and I think those are some great questions that we're going to have to ask and answer tonight. The idea of a 9 to 5 job not being 9 to 5. I've only had one major type of job in my life, in a sense, as an adult, which has been in healthcare. But I think for most people that I work with in coaching and as patients and talking to them, that work stress continues into their life at home. So adding all of that stress from the day, reading another 200 emails after just a couple of hours, that carries into the home at night. You're thinking about the workplace, or if you're mistreated or not treated fairly because of the stress everybody else in the workplace is having. We're not individually signaling out, Sharon, you're doing a bad job. It's the whole environment that's, you know,
Toxic.
toxic. Thank you. And that toxicity goes home with you because you feel it. And then how can you interact with your family? And then what kind of choices are you going to make when it comes to making yourself feel better? And for a lot of my patients and clients, it's food, alcohol, sitting down and just kicking back and doing nothing. So what are some of the
Vegging
things
out.
that, what are the things that we can do? Well, we can control our habits, right? And learn, we have lots of ways of how we can handle stress. But Paige, do you have any thoughts on when you work with your clients, and for yourself, what are things that you do to help you kind of step away from some of those stressors that we all feel, to help you alleviate the literal toxicity inside of your body?
I mean, for me, it's always getting active is my go-to. So last week was a stressful week for me. We're in the middle of this step challenge, and I say I'm going for a walk. And well, it's like, yeah, she had a bad day at work. She's going for a walk. If it's 9 o'clock at night and I'm out there walking, my day was bad. I mean, I hit over 100,000 steps last week because calculated it was 54 miles I walked last week.
Oh my God.
So it's 54 miles of stress, but it's kind of my thing. Like I was up this morning and walking. It sets the tone for me to walk into that stressful environment.
So do you feel like the walk and the ability to clear your mind is the stress, or is it the satisfaction of accomplishing something positive that really, really is the thing that kind of is your jam?
I mean, I no, I mean, I think it's listening to my music and processing what I need to process in my head as I'm walking.
Yeah,
It's an
clear your
interesting
mind.
question. Well, because I would say both for myself. Um, you know, I um, I love walking every day, and I run 3 to 4 days a week. And there's days I don't want to run. Yesterday was Tuesday, and I run on Tuesday. So I don't want to run, but you know what? I know how good I feel after running. I know why I run. I know that I can just do enough to help me in that long term. And I think a lot of people want that instant pleasure from things. Listen, instant pleasure from running doesn't happen right away, but
Yeah.
it does over time. Right. And so activity, I think, is one way that we do it. Getting appropriate sleep obviously is another thing, and all of the habits of health that we coach people through. Walt, what would you say? How would you answer a question about
Well, it's kind of funny because you used the term with me, and I have changed what I listen to on my walks now. I don't walk nearly as much as either of you or run
mm,
anything, but I've started listening to audiobooks, and I've just listened to James Collins' Good to Great, and now I'm pretty much almost done James Collins' Built to Last. And I am very involved in business in my mind, and I like to listen to how different leaders and how they built some of these companies. I mean, I learned about 3M, and it was just absolutely amazing about how it became the company it was. And I would say that, if your stress is vocational and economic, then why not think of a way of taking control of that situation and consider doing something for yourself? Become an entrepreneur on something else. I mean, one of my other hobbies that I've just recently gone back into is officiating football, which has both an exercise element and a financial element because, you know, um, there's some compensation for that. But, there's
And, oh,
things like that,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but that also has a community element.
right?
And
Which
so
is,
one of the things that I was looking at when I was doing some research on this idea is the idea of loneliness. And so, the work stress, we feel alone, we feel like we're being targeted, we take that home, we're lonely at home, we have a family, but um and increasing risks of heart disease, stroke, dementia all comes from that loneliness. They actually link it to the impact that smoking gives us. So
wow.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but what a great idea that you seek physical, financial, and community benefit and social benefit in looking at that alternative option for work.
Yeah, I didn't quite go that far when I was thinking about it, but I think that, just like Paige and I have done with our coaching business, it gives us something that we can look forward to, that's outside the quote unquote 9 to 5.
Yeah.
What do you think? What's been a big difference for you, Paige?
With the coaching,
Yeah,
I mean, I think I've become more social. Um, I enjoy talking to people. I mean, 2 years ago, do you think I would pick up a phone and talk to a complete stranger on the phone and tell them my story and then coach them through the bumps in the road? And I do it, and I think that's what it's done for me. Is it's kind of opened my heart and opened my arms a little bit.
Oh, I love that.
yeah,
I I think for me, it's been coaching has been an absolute joy. It's a passion. It's the ability to make an impact without it impacting me. Health in a physical way, in a mental way for sure, far above the physical benefit, um, and the financial way.
right.
So I have 3 kids in college right now. I'm actually blessed that 2 of them are in a state school and not 3 of them in private. Um, but when we look at, the costs of living and what we earn, there's a disconnect. When I first started coaching, within a couple months, I had enough to pay for a trip for my family of 5 to go to Florida and swim with dolphins because that was my dream and I brought them with me. And so, one of the things, look, we're not here to tell you that you should coach, but think about what brings you joy and what brings you income or financial benefits. Because here's some data, the sad data. 24% of Americans have no emergency savings. 24%. As of January, 36% of adults have more credit card debt than they have in emergency savings. And we're not talking like emergency of your entire home. I mean, something that can cost a couple $1,000s. And one of the scarier statistics to me was that fewer than half of the working Americans currently have any retirement savings.
And that
That's
just
scary.
speaks to, the challenge that we kind of put out there with the self-care plan,
Yeah.
the vocation plan, the stress reduction plan is how do you take action and what action can you take? And in this scenario of, would you like to be your own boss? Would you like to experiment with something that involves a community, involves people who, you may know, people who may be a part of your family and helping them? Or would you want to work in another environment that may be similar to what you already do? Um, you know, Certainly not trying to suggest one thing over another, but just saying that taking action, right, is at least a positive step to changing the current reality that you may face in that vocational or economic stress, based on, just the current trends that are out there today. So if someone wanted to become a coach, Sharon, what would you tell them that this offers?
Oh, how much time do we have?
Well, we
Okay,
try and keep it short,
we'll
but
try to keep
we'll
it
give you a
short.
couple seconds.
I'll get, so what is the opportunity to coach? Complete personal and professional development with no strings attached, with certification. So it's like based in science. It's done through apprenticeship. It's on the job of your own accord with full support when you want, when you need it. I don't tell anybody, you're part of my coaching team and I don't tell you when to work and I don't reprimand you, but we do things together. And then so if somebody's looking to improve their health physically, we have that option because we're always thinking about being healthy and we're learning the information about health. Somebody wants to get help mentally in terms of our relationships, our thoughts, our concepts, the ick that lives upstairs in all of us, even me. It's just that I've learned to kind of put it back here. There is nothing better than this, whether you're a client or a coach. It is everything that we need to create a mental freedom, if you will. And then financially, it's an impact for your family, but it's an impact for the world. It reminds me literally, as you were sharing, Walt, a story of a woman who I was coaching many years ago, who just wasn't really happy in her job. And she was earning a fair salary, but she wasn't healthy herself. She had about 15, 20 pounds, which most people would be like, that's it. But she had 15 to 20 pounds that she wanted to lose. But she was afraid to go on interviews because she was not feeling healthy in herself, in her body, and she didn't have a healthy mind. And as I coached her and she got healthier, do you know what she did? She changed her career because she developed the confidence to go on the interview and they were like, you're what we're looking for. And it didn't matter what she looked like to them. It's how she showed up. And so in our world, we help people show up in life. We help them thrive and live, not just kind of exist and live on that traditional hamster wheel of, I don't even know how I got to the office today, because that's how robotic we are. So what does coaching offer? Health, wellness, opportunity, freedom, purpose, retirement savings.
Fill in the blank, right? And the greatest thing, right, is you never know until you try, or you never know until you explore. And whether you were to explore coaching or any other vocation, in an period of economic stress, it's better to go into action than sit back and watch, right?
And I'll probably end on the idea of what a client earlier today said, which I just shared with you guys as we were turning on our Zoom. This client happens to be working with her husband as clients together, and said, you know, I'm not going to do this and I'm going to do that. And, she's changing up her nutrition and her hydration, and she's starting to move her body a little bit. She's feeling good, but she's really early in the process. And we joked about Carvel ice cream, which is something that I grew up with in Northern Jersey, and she's out in Long Island. And we had a little banter about it. And I said, yeah, you can have that if you want. But, she's like, no, wait a minute. I'm joking. Because what's the alternative? She made the decision with her husband to work on their health together. What's the alternative? She said to me. She's like, don't change. Keep doing what I'm doing. Be unhappy. Be unhealthy. What's the point of that? If I'm going to do something different, I'm going to do something different. And it's the hardest thing to do on your own. So whatever change you're looking for, we can guide you to that change. It doesn't have to be our way, but it can be something that we can give you resources on how to create the freedom that you're looking for to avoid some of these statistics that are out there. So any final words before we wrap up tonight?
No, I would just say, as I say, just go into action. Don't let the toxicity, the situation make you withdraw, fire out and give it your best shot.
Fabulous. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you next week.